U.S. financial services firms be interested in this new EU benchmarking regulation?
Well, I am mindful that I'm sitting in a New York conference room discussing this regulation with US firms, and a bunch of people out there wondering, why are we interested in this? Well, it's very clear actually. Many US firms sell product into Europe. They have clients in Europe. They make publicly available their investment performance against benchmarks. And if they do so, guess what? They are covered by this regulation, period.
What types of punishment would US firms face if they are non-compliant with the new regulation?
Well, the sanctions are varied. Certainly at the top end of the scale, it would bring a tear to your eye. The fine, the monetary fine, goes as high as €1 million, which is approximately $1.25 million, or 10% of the annual turnover of the firm, the higher of.
Turnover, you mean revenue, right?
Yes, revenue.
It's called revenue. Okay.
That can be quite substantial, but what's little known perhaps is that, you know, the US firm that breaches this regulation may be a subsidiary firm. It may be the Irish or UK subsidiary. It is not the subsidiary that is punished, it is their parent firm. So 10% of revenue is 10% of the parent company revenue. And that is obviously quite a substantial sum of money.
How will Brexit impact the reach of this new regulation, if it does at all?
Well, that question is still open for an answer. At the moment, there are some negotiations happening with the UK and the EU on a transition period. It's expected, and particularly with financial services, that there will be some longevity to comply with EU regulation for maybe up as far as another 3 years. In which case this regulation is still live in the UK, probably going up to 2020 at earliest. When they do eventually leave, obviously the UK will no longer be an EU company. So a US firm engaging solely with UK clients will no longer have to take cognizance of the EU regulation. However, I would suggest that US firms are more European focused than necessarily country focused as per the UK. So in all likelihood, US firms will still be caught under this regulation moving forward regardless of Brexit.
What should US firms then do now to prepare for this new regulation?
Well, I think the sensible thing to do is to recognize that that they must put in place a regime to manage their benchmarks. They have to inventory them. So the wise thing to do is to effectively list every benchmark that they use, identify for each of those benchmarks an alternative benchmark should their primary benchmark fail to get recognition by the European regulator. It's only in the circumstance where their primary benchmark provider fails to receive approval that they would then have to go back to their alternative benchmark and take that benchmark moving forward.